Welcome to the A Train Sports Talk Podcast, streaming live on Riverside.fm, YouTube, and Twitch.tv. As I always say, going city to city, state to state, coast to coast, picking up passengers on the way. And guess what? This train stops at the campus of Kansas Wesleyan University, a name that is synonymous in the Wichita area in the state of Kansas. He is the coach of the Kansas Wesleyan Coyotes, but I'm going to say by way of Wichita, Kansas, where he got his basketball roots.
For sure.
He is part of the famous Murdoch family. And we're not talking Dick Murdoch either. We're talking about the Murdoch family that plays basketball. My guest is Coach. Put respect on that name. Coach Jordan Murdoch. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Man, I appreciate you. Appreciate you having me.
Man, I am so glad that we finally got to link up.
Man.
I go back history with your family, Jeff Murdoch.
Yeah.
Went to school with him. He was a dynamic player, dynamic person. Of course, I just seen Johnny not too long ago. We were standing side by side at Jumpstart right there on Broadway.
Oh,
And you know what? He is still the same down to earth, haven't changed one bit, humble person. So it's no secret to have you on the show. You display those same qualities. So I am elated, and I'm going to say blessed to have you on the show. So once again, welcome to the show, man.
Appreciate it, man. I appreciate you having me. This is when it comes to podcasts, man, I'm constantly listening to podcasts. So another thing, obviously, thank you for what you do for the city as well. That's a big deal. But not only the city, but the surrounding area of Kansas, man, it's a big deal. So appreciate that.
That makes me feel good. And that's the reason I do this, because, I run into people so many times and I never know who's listening to. They actually say, I'll be at a basketball game in Derby, and they're like, "Oh, we know you. You don't say you have the best podcast in the state of Kansas." I'm like blown away when I hear them repeat. So, that's the reason I do this, because I appreciate y'all that come on the show, but y'all are the one that motivate me for doing this. So I want to thank you, my guest, as well too. So let's talk about Mr. Jordan Murdoch, because you started your basketball career at a young age. I mean, when did you discover that you was in love with the game of basketball?
I mean, my dad, he had it in me and my brother. We started early back when they were doing bitty basketball. It was some teams ahead of me as well that I always watched growing up. I've always been around the game, and I think we might have started our team around 4 or 5 years old. It's always something me and my family did, me and my cousins as well, at my grandmother's house. It's always been my number one love. It's a special game, and so that's probably when I started, around 4 or 5 years old.
So tell me something. What was more intense? Because you had siblings. What was more intense? The games itself in the organized, the practices that you used to go through where the coach point you out, or was it the sibling rival basketball game that was more intense?
Yeah, it was always a competition at home for me. Me and my brother either going at it, or me and my cousins going at it. I had a lot of my friends that would come over to my house, and I would say a lot of times at home, just competing all the time, nonstop, either with my dad or my brother, like I said, my cousins. So it kind of started there. The basketball games and stuff like that, organized wise, was the easy part, right? Because we had already been through, we know how to compete. Now it's time to do it with, other people. It's time to, do it with my teammates and things like that. So, I would just say that.
All right. Now, describe your high school career and who you was coached by, and how did that shape you going forward into your college career?
Yeah, so I got to Southeast, or I went to school at Northeast High School. Not a lot of people know that. They just see me playing
Magnet,
basketball at Southeast.
Northeast
So I
Magnet,
went
right?
to, yeah, me and my brother went to Northeast Magnet, and we played at Southeast. I played for Coach Melvin Herring. Right after Coach Taylor had stopped playing or stopped coaching,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was really great for me. He allowed me to be a leader, come in and do those things that a lot of people don't really get a chance to, and then just with great teammates as well, like Irvin Garnes, EJ Garnes. He
Mm-hmm.
uh, playing with him, like I always tell people, he was the commander. He was our point guard, and I grew up actually playing with him. I started playing with him at 4 or 5 years old. He was on our team from my dad's team all the way up, and he even played with me in college at Friends University. And so, it was easy once we got out there. Coach Mel made it easier just because he was a genuine dude, and he just let us play together. He let us play free, so it was good.
Now, in your playing days, and you mentioned some names, EJ Garnes, y'all played together growing up,
Mhm.
even at Friends University. What is the intensity level like? Because I make it to a NAI or NKCAC
Yeah,
game real soon because I'm getting to meet people. But
yeah,
you also had the privilege of playing at Hutch Community College when Coach Steve Eck was there.
yeah,
So I'm just curious because I've heard people, both sides of the fence, good, bad, in between. What is the competition like at the NAIA level, and especially seeing that you came from being coached at, I would say, high level JUCO under Coach Steve Eck? What
yeah.
was the competition level like?
For sure. Hey, this is actually a great question because, uh, not a lot of people obviously, when you watch it growing up, you want to play at the Power Five. You want to get to the highest level as possible, right?
Hmm.
Everybody's got that dream, but once you actually take a look, I would actually tell people to come out and see games, especially in the Wichita area. Friends University this past year and Coach Phil McClintock, they did it really well. They were battling for first or second in the conference, and I assume he's going to be putting out the same product. He lost some guys, but it's going to be a battle in the league. But I say this, even me being here at Kansas Western as the associate head coach, in the past when my brother was our point guard, it was super high level. We had D1 bounce backs, a couple D2 guys that bounced back into the NAI level. And then if you look at the national tournament, there's always guys that either, sometimes we get a D2 or a D1 bounce back that has more years at the NAI level, so he ends up coming here instead of going to a Division One or a Division Two because the NCAA ended up taking his game or his year away. Um, you know, it changes by the player, but it's a lot of high level. It's a lot of high level basketball players. Just in general, and so if I always tell guys if they're talking down on the NAI, you need to go catch a game because it's
Hmm.
super high level, and it's very competitive, and we're looking to make a run next year, so it's gonna be fun.
Now, I'm looking at some of your resume here, and not only have you played under some of the great coaches,
Yeah,
you also had to spend some time during your coaching tenure, whether it be an assistant or now I believe you say associate head coach. What was your time like with Jeff Boshi, who I
yeah,
know is a former KU guy?
yeah, yeah. And it was fun. It was actually a full circle moment when I got the job there. Uh, he actually ended up calling me when I was here. I was here in like late August of this past year, and he ended up giving me a call. I was there September 1st to start. He helped me and my family so much. First off, I want to say, man, the gratitude that I got towards Coach Jeff Boshi is goes beyond measure. He's done things for me that I can never repay him back for. But not only that, but just the experience to be able to be a coach under him and his expectation. It showed me, you know, a lot, and I think it ultimately prepared me to be in the position I'm in now, as a head coach. All the coaches that I've been around, especially like you said, especially with Coach Eck as well, but Jeff Boschee, man, he's a wizard when it comes to offense. That's another thing. Um, and you know, for me to just be around him and you know soak up the knowledge that he has for the game, it's helped me tremendously. And you know, he's gonna be a line that I'm calling this next year. You know, me coming in as a first time head coach, just you know, nonstop talking to him, and you know, him being able to help me out when I need it, and bounce off ideas, you know, for him and stuff like that. So I think that's huge.
And you mentioned something, being a first time head coach.
Hmm.
So, what are some of the philosophies that you're taking in as far as being a first time head coach? Because I know you got the experience being on the recruiting trail, but
Yeah.
now it shifts because you're not the assistant or the coach that's going out on the trips all the time. Now you're the head coach to where you can probably delegate some of those responsibilities. And then there
Yeah.
may be some of those moments where, no, I want to go personally. So, what are some of your philosophies, and who did you learn some of your philosophies from when it comes to that aspect of the coaching?
I would say, you know, I got majority of my coaching experience actually being here. I started off as a grad assistant here and worked my way up. I was a GA for 2 years here, and then I worked my way up to associate head coach. And the coach here, Coach Munson, he really, you know, being able to, you know, bounce different ideas and see how he did things, but also, like you said, with Coach Eck, he was another one that you know I was able to see, and then you know this past year being at the Division II level with Coach Boschee, you know, I would say a lot of it is going to be our culture that I kind of mimic from them. You know, all of those guys, you know, did things pretty similar, but you know they had their own twist of different things. And so I would say, for me, the first thing I'm establishing with my team is our culture and the way that we do things. For instance, showing up on time, that's something that you can control. Uh, Being places, you know, going to class, getting to class, a lot of that stuff is off the court things. And then on the court, we'll have standards as well that we'll have to hit. I tell all our guys when I'm recruiting them, we treat the court as a business, and you know what happens on the court is going to stay on the court, but we separate, you know, basketball and life. You know what I mean? So that would be, you know, kind of my first thing that I'm going into this year, trying to make sure that I hone in on is making sure that the culture is strong, and also not only strong, but it has to be player led as well. So you know, getting the right guys in here that are, you know, going to buy into, you know, what I want to see happen. That's pretty much the big thing.
All right. And I noticed you mentioned something about the classroom. And one of the questions I normally ask my student athletes that I have on the show,
Yeah,
ask them what their grade point average is. And then I ask them specifically to, you know, what is the importance of education? And most of them nail it. So I know, especially when they say at the Power Five level, you know, they say you could just about tell which players are going to class, which players aren't going to class, especially if they're one and done. You know,
yeah,
after that season is over, they're not going. So you can't really say there's any true student athletes.
yeah.
Explain the student athlete at the NAIA, especially within the KCAC, and what is it you look for when you're recruiting players? Because I know there are some on your radar. I know one of them is in Derby. That's all
Yep,
I'm going to say.
yep,
But what do you recruit? I know you recruit talent, but
yeah,
how well do you also recruit the brain?
yeah. That's number one. I tell even my assistant coaches here, you know, when it comes to NAI in general, a lot of times you get a lot of scholarship money based off of your uh, your academics and your GPA. But I would say this too. A lot of that stuff goes into basketball, right? Me being in the timeout, right? Being able to write down a play and a guy comprehend what I'm saying and translating it out there on the basketball floor is a big thing. a big deal for me in general, just because we're going to be put in those situations a lot. And, I got to be able to trust that my guys are going to be able to understand. And, sometimes I might not even be able to write it. All I'll be able to do is say it. And so, I do a lot of background research. I'm talking to head coaches at high schools. I'm talking to the parents a lot, but that's a big one as well. Parents play a big part in recruiting as well, just because there's a lot of ins and outs that not a lot of people really look at when it comes to recruiting. But that's another thing that I kind of got from Coach Boshi. And so when it comes to the grades, though, it has to happen. Number one, you got to graduate. I want guys that are gonna, that I recruit that are gonna come in here and be a graduate. A lot of our guys leave Kansas Wesleyan, with jobs, or if they want to play overseas, they have that ability as well. We got a lot of connections in that area, but the number one thing, I want you to be successful past basketball. At some point, the basketball is going to stop bouncing, and you got to be able to, take care of yourself. Not have to rely on your family to kind of bring you back home and baby you back to where you need to be. You gotta, life is gonna life, and you gotta be ready for it. So that's what we're building here, and I'm excited. But the grades are, a big part of if we're gonna recruit a guy.
Now, see, at the beginning of the show, you mentioned listening to the podcast, and I almost can swear that you probably have listened to this podcast stuff, because when I heard that statement made about at some point the ball is going to stop bouncing, I'm like, that's not the first time I heard that either.
Yeah, for sure.
Just like I say, I appreciate the student athletes, because they posted stuff right there on X. So I already know what the grade point average is. I just want to make sure they can confirm it. And then, where you harped upon, sometimes you may not be able to write it. You just have to speak it, and they have to be able to translate what you speak.
Yeah.
So now, in the recruiting process, what all goes into it? What type of recruiting trails? I know you probably have coaches at the high school games. Do you also get out and scout the circuit known as the AAU? Because it seems like the AAU scene is where most coaches are going to be, because of the fact that how college basketball season overlap with high school basketball season. And let's just face it, you just don't have the time to get out there. Which, you hear some local high school players saying, well, the coaches don't come out to our games. Well, the time is very limited. So just what is your recruiting process like?
Yeah, I try to make it out as much as possible, especially, here being here, our games are Wednesdays and Saturdays. So if I'm missing to go and watch a high school kid, I'm missing a day of the day right before our game, because a lot of times they're playing Tuesday, Friday, and a lot of that stuff, we take serious as coaches. Like we want to win, we want to compete at the highest level. And so, if I'm leaving the day before the game to come and watch a guy play, number one, he's got to have a classroom taken care of. But I would say at the AAU level, we get out as much as possible in the summertime and try to watch. Some of it is hard to watch just because, it's not very much togetherness on sometimes when you go out and watch certain teams and different things like that. Sometimes there's not a lot of defense being played. That's, one of the things that kind of factors in for, us when we're recruiting. We want to make sure a guy can guard the basketball. We play. I mean, we try to get out there so we can see their face, but a lot of times, like we go out there to see them, and then when the high school season comes around, I'll probably be sending. We got a grad assistant here, so we probably send out one of those guys or one of our assistants out to watch, just so I can be here and be able to help the day before the game and prepare and stuff like that.
All right. Now, we know in today's basketball culture, the big thing now is NIL.
Yeah.
And transfer portal. Well, I don't hear too much about NIL at the NAIA level.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure you guys are affected by the transfer portal.
Yes.
So how do you navigate TP?
Well, um, I would say it's been the transfer portal has been really good for us at the NAI level. And the reason why I say that is, some guys, I tell people all the time, first off, like the grass is not greener always. You gotta fail to be successful in life. You gotta go through things, and it's all about continuing continuing to go down the path that you want to get down. Sometimes they're gonna tell you no, but or you might not get the answer that you want, but you got to keep pressing forward. And so, and that goes, with anything in life, anything that you do, not just college basketball. And so, it's been pretty good for us. We got some guys, like I said, that have, for instance, myself. I can talk about myself. I've got, two D2 transfers. Looking to probably add another D2 transfer. He's coming on a visit on Monday, and so it's been really good. We don't offer NIL, and so I tell guys that immediately. Different depending on where you're at. Obviously at the D1 level, they have that nonstop, and then it's creeping into the D2 game as well. I was just at Pitt State, and so it's starting to creep in. NIL is starting to get in there, and the best teams usually have a little bit of a NIL budget, and so that's the good thing for us. Now there is some NAIs that are doing really well, and they can do stuff like that as far as the fund goes, but majority don't. So I tell guys, if they come in here, it's going to be out of the love for the game, strictly love for the game, and then obviously you get to get a great education here at Kansas Wesleyan.
So, with that being said, because at some point, like you say, there may be some NAIA schools that have NIL programs. How long do you think it would be? Because, like you say, we know it's at the Power 5 level, at the D1 level. It's creeping into the D2 level, seeping into the NAIA level.
Yeah.
How long before it's full blown at all levels? And who do you think will suffer the most? Because you said if you come to KWU, it's for the love of the game.
Yeah.
How much of the love of the game do you think is lost, and is more about the financing than it is the game?
It's turned into. I mean, we've seen an unusual KU team this past year, and I think a lot of that had to do with just the NIL stuff. A lot of guys aren't. It's not relationship based. It's it's turned into. It's basically It's turned transactional. The relationships. Hey, coach. This school offered me this amount. Can you beat that? If not, I probably won't be coming to your school. That's kind of usually how the NIL talks go. I know it's it probably will seep into the NAI level at some point, to where multiple schools are giving out something. It probably won't be to the level that the D1s and some D2s have, but I know it'll probably start creeping in, and then if not, great, because like I said, if you're here, if you come here, man, it's gonna be we're gonna have a relationship, and I'm not a transactional guy, so I'm not just, it's not what you can do for me, and then I'll help you out or different things like that. Like we're a family here at Kansas West. It's been like that for years, and I'll continue to make sure that stays the status quo here. And so when it comes to different things like that, I think NIL is definitely taking over, and it's kind of created some bad teams in college basketball, because
I mean, yeah, because one of the things, sometimes I venture into these chat rooms just to see what the public is saying, and one of the statements I would say it was probably a hit below the belt was that the only reason Hunter Dickerson came back for his final season at KU is because this is the most money he's going to get in his lifetime, because he's not going to make that at the next level. I mean, and then to stretch it out even further, some KU fans have said that maybe Bill Self need to go back to just recruiting high
Yeah.
school players and developing them. So
Yeah.
in the shuffle of the transfer portal as well too, who suffers the most and who benefits the most? Is it a high school senior coming out? Because it seem like the schools would be more adapt. Well, I'm going to get someone that has experience, but
Yeah.
sometimes that doesn't always pay out. I mean, everybody's not a Coach Hurley at UConn that can navigate through the transfer portal and win back-to-back NCAA tournaments, but
Yeah.
you don't hear about a big NIL budget either. If
Yeah.
they do, they're keeping it under wraps. But I'm just saying he seemed like he's been able to navigate through the portal. So who gets lost in the shuffle? Is it the high school kid coming out of high school, or is it the JUCO player? And is this a situation where someone at a in the eye level can say, "Well, we can cash in on this because they're the ones being overlooked"?
Yeah. Uh, I'd say completely. High school kids are, they're being left out a lot of times, just because, you know, if you're at a D2, right, and you're at a D1, and I mean, I can understand the thought process, right? You would rather get a guy that has proven he's won somewhere. He's been in college. He's been in the weight room. He understands what college culture looks like. He understands, how to be a good person outside of basketball at your university. And so I get the thought process, but a lot of times what's happening right now with the transfer portal, you'll get a kid that jumps in and he just jumped in because he didn't play. And you know when you go into a college, 9 times out of 10 they've got guys that have established themselves, and sometimes you got to put your head down and work. That's at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. And I think a lot of high school guys are getting left behind, even at the JUCO level. Some of those guys are getting left behind as well, and they've even been in college. So, you know, I think the transfer portal has its good, but it also, it's a mixture of good and bad in there, because you
Mhm.
might have a guy that's just unhappy at the amount of money he's getting, and so he's transferring, which is crazy. So then now he's in there and he's trying to put on you know, his best mask, and show the best side of him, and then you bring him into your team, and he doesn't give you, or he changes, right? His personality is changed, based off different things. So I would say a lot of that is on the recruiter. You got to make sure you do your homework with the family, do your homework with the people that are around him, the people that are in his ear nonstop.
Mhm.
I think that's a big deal.
Right, because the scary part now is these college athletes now can have agents while they're still
Yeah,
in college. Well, I'm not going to take up too much more of your time, but I have a two-part question for you.
yeah,
How is the recruiting looking for you? I mean, how's the team shaping up?
yeah,
And going into year one, what kind of expectations can we see from the Coyotes? Because we want to hear that Coyote
yeah,
growl. We want to hear that Coyote roar. We want to see that Coyote attack its prey, eat
for
it up
sure.
one side, down the other. So, what can we expect to see from you in your first year? And how's the recruiting trail looking? How's your team shaping up?
For sure. Our team is shaping out. It's coming together. It's gonna be a special year. I want to get, one or two guys. I've been recruiting a guy from the Wichita area pretty hard. He's at the JUCO level right now. I won't disclose his name just because
Mm.
I want him to, understand how much we want him to be here. But he, I think, the biggest thing, man. I got to get a point guard. That's my last thing. I've signed Alec Grill at a Maze
That was a good.
and I
That was a
think
good
he's gonna
statement.
be, yeah, I think he's gonna be spectacular here. He's gonna do a lot of great things, and for us, it's us about throwing him into the fire. But also, I want to make sure that we got somebody that is also, you know, been in college, understood as well. And so I think the team is coming together. The point guard spot is the most important thing, and when it comes to a team in general. And so just trying to add some depth there. I know Alex going to do a great job, and so The biggest thing is just, making sure that, we got some depth in that area. And, lastly, when it comes to, what you can expect from us, we're going to play hard. We're going to play together. It's going to be a team like atmosphere. And the expectation for us is to win. I don't want to come in and, wait or, do anything like that. We've got the talent to come in and, build a really good team, and I'm excited. I think we'll be really good. We just got to come together like every other team when it comes to college basketball. I feel like if we can come together, we'll be a really special team.
Well, I'm looking forward to the upcoming season. Uh, whatever games I can't make, I'm smart enough to say I got the KCAC Network app on a phone and on a
Yes,
tablet. So that means I can be on a phone and watching this game and then be on a tablet and watching this game.
yeah,
So I am going to be definitely tuned into the KCAC Full Throttle.
for sure.
I want to say I want to wish you the best of luck this year,
Thank you,
especially this being your first full year of being the man in charge.
for
But
sure.
uh, best of luck. I know the family's going to be out there supporting, and uh, go get them, man. Go do your thing. Appreciate
Man,
you
I,
being on the
I
show today.
appreciate you so much. I do. I really do. I appreciate you for allowing me to be on your show as well. Like I said, I've listened to multiple episodes, multiple guys that have been on here, and just want to reiterate that gratitude that I got for you allowing me to be on your podcast. And another thing, just what you do, like I said, for the state of Kansas, not only Wichita, but just the state of Kansas in general. When it comes to college athletics, is huge. So appreciate you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you.
I appreciate it a lot.
I'm very humbled and blessed. So I want to say thank you as well too. So we'll do this again. We'll catch up. Hopefully, do like a preseason deal, and
Yeah, we can do that.
maybe have a player or two available if the one that you
Yeah,
have that have access to the media, and we'll just continue to just keep in touch. So once
for
again,
sure.
best of luck, and bring a title back to KWU.
That's the plan. That's the plan, man. Thank you so much.
All right. Once again, my guest, Jordan Murdoch, head coach, Kansas Wesleyan University. Thank you for being on the show.
For sure. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. We got some more to come. We're gonna let Coach Murdoch get on about his day. We got some more to come, and then again, we're gonna talk about some controversial issues right now because we're gonna shift from interview. We're gonna get into Shedeur Sanders. Anybody with a brain should know that what happened to Shedeur Sanders was a travesty. I've said it multiple times, and I'm gonna say it again right now. I put this on my other podcast, and I'm gonna put it on this one so you get ready to close out. So you can deem this as more like a commentary. As a matter of fact, I might need to pull my notes up because I want to make sure I have it verbatim. And you may love me after this, or you may hate me after this. It really doesn't matter. But some things have to be stated. But one of the things right here, Shedeur Sanders isn't special because he's facing bias. He's special because he refuses to bow. So let's be real. Bias against black quarterbacks isn't anything new. It's a tradition. Warren Moon, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. Of course, we could probably put an asterisk beside him. Justin Fields, Geno Smith. Every time, same story. Underrated, doubted, disrespected. Meanwhile, media loves to throw Tom Brady comparisons around, like being an overlooked backup is somehow the same thing as being a black QB fighting systemic sabotage. The NFL draft isn't just about talent, it's about comfort. It's about telling a story that makes a certain audience feel good. They want the grateful kid from the hood, not the confident black man who expects to win. And that's why Shador Sanders pisses them off because he's not broken, he's not desperate, he's not begging to be saved. He's the son of a legend who made sure his sons didn't have to start from scratch. He's a product of preparation, not pity, confidence, not crumbs. Had Shador been poor and broken, they'd celebrate his humility. But standing tall, knowing his worth, no, that makes them uncomfortable. A confident black man who doesn't need validation is treated like a threat, not a storybook hero. And for the geniuses yelling, but Jaden Daniels and CJ Stroud, well, you can miss me with that. One or two success stories don't erase decades of systemic racism. You sound like the same people who said racism ended because Obama became president. Stop being woefully stupid. Shador's battle isn't just about getting drafted. It's about shattering a system built to exploit young black talent, not empower it. And for the record, if a dynasty like the Mannings is celebrated, but a dynasty like the Sanders family is questioned, you already know what time it is. America isn't scared of black talent. America is scared of black legacy, of black ownership, of black sons who walk in rooms like they belong because they do. If the NFL isn't ready for Shador Sanders, good. Maybe it's time we stop asking for seats at their tables and start building our own. Because at the end of the day, Shador and Coach Prime don't need the league. The league needs them. Stay solid, black excellence. Shador Sanders, Coach Prime, built, not begging. I know some of those comments might not sit well with all, but it need to be put out there. I'm gonna go ahead and say it like this. As a parent, you prepare your child to be the best they can in whatever endeavor they are going to be in. And when that child is successful, that should be applauded. It seems like national level, I always look for the rags to riches. Okay, even when Travis Hunter got drafted in the number 2 spot, Heisman Trophy winner, played both ways at University of Jackson at Jackson State University, Colorado. His talents isn't what was talked about. His GPA in the classroom isn't what was talked about. The story became more about his dad who was let out of prison to watch his son being drafted. Yes, I know that's supposed to be a feel good story, but can I also add this? You also have to know the difference between a compliment and an insult. So yes, I get why the Sanders makes most people feel uncomfortable. But can I also throw this question out to you? Why was it applauded? Why was it applauded that Archie Manning could be so involved in his son's draft and where they went to? But it was frowned upon when Dion said, my son is not playing here, son is not playing there. Y'all said it was an overbearing father. But it was applauded when Archie Manning did it with his son Eli. Sounds very hypocritical to me, but I'll leave that up for debate. Well, it is Saturday. I want to say once again, thank you to my guest, Jordan Murdoch. You know, I always say it like this. It doesn't matter who I am. What makes my show number one are the guests that I have on this show. And I want to applaud Jordan Murdoch again for being on the show. Very bright young man, very knowledgeable of the game of basketball, quick to give credit where credit is due. He knows that where he's at, he didn't make it on his own, so he's quick to be thankful. And, you know, y'all seen his gratitude he had toward me, what I'm doing. I'm just as equally grateful for him taking out over 20 minutes of his time that he would never be able to get back on a Saturday afternoon on the A-Train Sports Talk podcast that's streaming on twitch.tv, YouTube, and also riverside.fm. And you also be able to get the podcast later on. But I just can't say thank you enough to Jordan Murdoch, to the Murdoch family. I know you guys are probably watching this. And if you're not watching it, you're going to definitely check out the podcast because it will be uploaded here shortly. Thank you again to Jordan. Once again, get out and check out some of these KCAC games. I haven't made it out to a basketball game yet, but I will say I made it to a football game. It is some very entertaining, competitive action on the field, and look for me to be at the games on the court besides just watching on the app. And if you can't make it, download the KCAC Network app. Do it. You will not be disappointed. That's how I get to watch some of the games I do watch. So you do that. Well, like I said, today is Saturday. Get out and enjoy the day. I'm about to get my Saturday started. Actually, my Saturday already started. It started one of the greatest interviews that I've had in a long time. So, once again, till the next time, stay cool, stay smooth, stay blessed. A-Train is pulling into the station.